Hello. I'm going to admit this right now. I hadn't planned to do a morning recording, and had only decided that that's what I was going to do when, like, approximately 2 minutes after I had gotten into my bed, I realized, oh, I forgot to record. So thus, morning. Just before I had hit record, I'd been having a little fight with my computer because I updated the piece of software that I'd been using to control the fans to slow them down when I start recording. And I don't know if the rest of you get this, but whenever you update or change or replace something, you always have an extra ear out for things that are off, like things that just don't seem right. But a lot of the time that means you notice things that were there the whole time, but because you didn't notice them before, you think they're new, and now you're freaking out about it. And I think one of the noises my computer is making is something that falls into that category. It might be the AIO making that noise, but I'm really not sure. I don't have manual control over the speed of the CPU cooler, unfortunately. It seems to go away for a bit when I smack the top of the PC case, which is odd, but I'm not going to do that while I'm recording. I did make myself some coffee before I sat down at the computer. Anyways, it's been a bit, again, as per usual, it's been a bit. I feel like I've had so many thoughts that I've meant to share or meant to write down and I've just forgotten to. Been very scattered. I'm not really sure what has been at the centre of the degeneration of my sleep schedule and my mental and physical state. Something's there. I do wonder. I do. See, I'm just sitting here trying to figure out what to say, right? I don't know what to say. What have I done? What have I done in last week? Let's try to, what's the word? Deduce that by looking through my DMs and such. I think the last time I made a video was in November, but what was the date? 2 weeks ago. 14 days. would have been early November. I wonder if it was before or after I went to Denny's and before or after I swapped out the wheels on my car. Well, either way, having done all that, I think after that point it was, oh, right. I just remembered what I did last week. So last week I got a DM from oh wait, this is a long story. This is a very long story. Before I get to that, let me start with the week before. The week before, I started, or rather, I bought is that what I did? No. Yes? I'm not sure. Well, one of the activities that's sort of been central recently is my friends, like my school, well, my friends from high school and middle school and such, the ones that have been around for a very long time, have recently gotten very back into Counter-Strike, and rather than not telling anybody and just like hopping into the voice chat and whoever shows up will get to play, everybody gets invited directly, which I think is quite funny. Like, I'll just be going about my day not looking at Discord, and then I'll get a notification from Steam that my friend wants to play Counter-Strike. And it's been a good time pretty much every time. And this has been going on for about a month. Aside from that, I got a game for, yeah, I think, I don't know what day it was. Either way, it was like the week before the last. Oh, I've just realised that game definitely messed up my sleep schedule. The game in question is called Me-Side. It's a psychological horror thriller type game where you get sucked into a smartphone game with your virtual girlfriend. And it's like, I'd seen like clips of VTubers engaging with certain parts of the game, but I hadn't watched that many. So I wasn't entirely sure what to expect. I was expecting something short and gimmicky and, well, generally speaking, uninteresting, but instead I was met with like a 6-hour experience that I did not want to stop playing. It was just fun the entire way through. I haven't really played an indie game that I can't put down like that in a bit, to say the least. Yeah, if you haven't played it and you can stomach, like, I'd say it's like light horror, I recommend giving the game a try. Either way, after I'd finished that, now we get to the story, which is I got a a message from a friend who I hadn't spoken to in like a bit, like a week or two. And they said, I need to get to the sister city. Like, we have a sister city to the one I live in, which is about 300 or so kilometers away. So I need to get there tomorrow. And the bus fees are terrible. And it would be more cost effective to be driven and pay for gas. And I thought about it for a minute. I only had one day left in my weekend. And I said, fuck it. I might as well exercise my free will. Like, I wasn't going to do anything important with the rest of that day either, so yeah, I decided that's what I'd do. Now, my intent was to leave leave the city around 10 p.m., not 10 p.m., 10 a.m. But I had an objective to get to. There's a record store in town that I'd gotten a $100 gift card for, and they sell a record player that's not really on any other storefronts. Like, you can't find it, at least not properly, on Amazon. And you can't find it at Best Buy or Walmart or what have you. It's a brand called Riga. They're made in Britain. I think made in England specifically. Either way, the edifier, I think it's the R1. Actually, let me look at the box. Edifier is not the brand. I said edifier because I was staring at the edifier box. No, it's not. Okay. My bad. I don't know why. The edifier box is like just in my peripheral vision, so I was like staring at that while I was speaking. No, it's the Riga P1. It's a turntable because for the longest time my record player has been playing too fast. Like, not fast enough that I can get around it by switching to a different speed, of which it has 3. But just fast enough that it's way too noticeable that the song is sped up. So either way, I went to get this turntable because they were having a Black Friday sale, which is it was $100 off the turntable. So that, in combination with my gift card, would drop it down $200 and make it seem a little more reasonable. unfortunately, my window for that was 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Those were the hours. The only hours on that Friday that I've lost my train of thought. That turntable would be on sale. So my plan to get out of town by 10 a.m. were out the window. And I was sort of kicking myself because if I had known that, then I would have gotten a few hours more sleep. I got maybe 3 or 4, or maybe even just 2 before I was set to go out on this road trip. So what is it? What am I thinking about? Right. So it took me ages to get to the record store because it's in it's like almost in the middle of downtown, which is just a terrible place to have to drive to. So I keep getting distracted by people making noise elsewhere in my house. Anyway, what was I saying? Right. It took me like a full hour to get to the record store, even though it's like in the summer it would have taken me 20 minutes. And that's because just my luck, the night before it had snowed like crazy. Everything had snowed and iced over, meaning the roads were going to be pretty bad on the way to the record store, and theoretically on the way out of town. And that they were. Even after I had gotten the record player, it was still hard to get around, because there's this sort of phenomenon that occurs with the traffic when it snows. There's the drivers who are improperly equipped. They haven't put on their winter tires, so they have zero traction, and it takes them forever to get moving when the light turns green, therefore putting a slow on traffic for miles. And then there's the drivers who have never driven, like despite having the equipment, have never driven in a snowy winter before and are too hesitant to move their vehicles. And because of these two types of drivers, we're sort of left in a position where traffic is slowed to a crawl in almost all directions. It sort of harkens back to a thought I had wherein driving is not something every person should be required to do. In fact, I think only 10% of people should ever drive. Driving should be a skill reserved for those who can do it without major error and without actively harming the livelihood of others. Anyway, so after that I went and I picked up my friend, and we headed out around noon to get to the city. It was about a 3-hour drive. And it was a fun 3-hour drive because my friend had recently travelled, so we had lots to talk about. I hadn't spoken to them in like a week or two. Yeah, and it was a great time. And the plan was I would drive them to their friend's house and take a nap at their friend's house and then head back out on the road to be home in time for supper. However, this did not pan out because by the time I'd gotten to their friend's house, the sun was already setting. And the original plan was to leave at 10 a.m, but we didn't leave till around noon. So, yeah, a bit of an issue there. Actually, I think I can find the exact time we left. It was more like 1 p.m, yeah. So it was like 4 p.m. by the no, not even 4, it was like 5 p.m. by the time we got to the friend's house. And, well, I did take my nap. When I woke up from my nap, it was pitch black outside. So, and it was snowing. So driving home in that weather on an unilluminated highway, it's probably not a very good idea. So they made accommodations and they had a room for me, and I slept there. It was a fun time though. We watched a movie, an animated movie, called, I might butcher the name, Legend of Xiaohe, I think. Legend of Luo Xiaohe. I'm not really sure how to pronounce Chinese names properly, but the movie's just called The Legend of Hay. But apparently there's a series as well. I wasn't familiar with the series. But I watched the movie, and it was an exceptionally good movie. Like, it wasn't particularly dark or anything, and there was lots of action fighting, but nobody ever really bled. There was no blood, or anything particularly graphic. There was destruction, but again, like, it's pretty tame. It was very cute, I will say that. Yeah, I highly recommend it though. After the movie, and them playing like way too much Honkai Star Rail, something that sort of goes over my head, we all went to bed. In the morning, around 10 a.m, it might have even been 11 a.m, I'm not sure. Actually, I think, yeah, no, it was 10. I had gotten up, and I was the only one up in the house. And I had started readying my stuff to leave, and I was caught by the host's mother, who was absolutely insistent on me having breakfast before I go. So I was made to stay for breakfast, which took about an hour. But it was nice. There was lots of food. And then I drove home on my own. And I got home almost in time for work at 3. I got home at 3, but I had to spend some time getting ready for work, so I was a bit late. Still, it was fun to exercise my free will like that. me talk about the turntable now. So, yeah, the Riga P1, Planar 1, that's what it's called. It is just a turntable. Like, it has a power switch which turns the rotor on, a tone arm, and a turntable, and there's nothing else. And like when I bought it, I knew it didn't come with speakers, so I was a bit disappointed that I'd have to buy speakers separately. When I had arrived at my friend's house in the other town, I went onto Amazon and looked for speakers on sale that seemed trustworthy enough, and I bought some speakers. However, I didn't really know how big the speakers would be. On the Amazon page, there weren't any measurements at all, and every picture of it was it was photoshopped in, so the scale couldn't really be trusted. And every customer photo made them look quite small. So I was a bit worried, because the only measurement on there was 4 inches, which is smaller than a soda can. The speakers weren't too expensive as far as speakers go, so I was quite worried that I'd bought tiny speakers. But more than that, I was worried that the speakers wouldn't work with the turntable. See, the turntable does not have a preamp. Before I start talking about this, my knowledge in this area is not very good, so the way in which I explain this might not be correct, but it's how I understand it. So apologies to any experts who may listen. But as I understand it, things that produce an audible signal, like a record player, need a preamp to take the raw signal coming from the needle and amp it up to an actually listenable volume, and then the speakers can adjust that volume. You can also adjust for noise and such, but there are lots of kinds of preamps. There's preamps for guitars, what else? Well, there's preamps for lots of things, even microphones. And they're an odd thing. So a lot of the time, more consumer-friendly electronics will have preamps built in, so whoever's using them doesn't have to worry about it. And other times, like with guitars, they, like on smaller setups where you're not going to be like concert for 1,000 people loud, you don't really need a preamp. Anyways, the recommended preamp for this specific turntable, they included a little card in the box, like, buy this preamp for your thing, because they do make preamps specifically for turntables. I think the recommended one is $300. And the ones on their website, like the website for the turntable, are like thousands of dollars. And the other options from the one they recommend, also thousands of dollars. And the ones on Amazon range from like $100 to, again, thousands of dollars. preamps for turntables are ridiculously expensive. Like, you can buy a cheap one, but it's going to be noisy. That's the issue. So I sort of banked on not needing one, because theoretically, if you buy a set of speakers that are self-powered, like, for example, like earbuds, not wireless ones, but wired ones, aren't self-powered. They receive a powered signal from your phone, or your MP3 player, or what have you, or your computer. But speakers that receive a, like, Bluetooth signal are self-powered. Speakers that plug into a wall or have, like, basically, the louder something gets, the more likely it is it's self-powered. So if the speakers were self-powered, they'd be able to amp up the turntable signal. So I was sort of banking on that with the speakers I had bought. But again, speakers I had bought, the only measurement they were giving me was 4 inches, which just seemed not correct. Either way, I couldn't worry about it because I had to go to work. So I went to work, and then after I got home from work, and I should have been dead tired, I instead went back to Amazon and started browsing, because I think, what if I'm wrong? What if the speakers are the wrong size? What if they're not self-powered? So I started doing research, like more research into the speakers I bought that hadn't arrived yet, but were set to arrive the next day. And I came to find that they were self-powered, so they should work for that, but I still couldn't find anything on the measurements, and like, even the only measurement their official website was giving me was, again, 4 inches, which just seemed not correct. But I was extremely sleep deprived, so this made me panic, and I immediately went to go find a set of speakers from the same brand that looked bigger and were most definitely self-powered and more than 4 inches. And I bought those with the intent being that I'd return the ones that arrived the next day when they arrived. So the next day rolls around and I wake up to the package. I decide, screw it, out of curiosity I'll open the box. And the box was pretty sizable. And inside were 2 speakers a lot bigger than 4 inches, and it's at that moment I realized, oh, 4 inches is the size of the driver, like the circle in the middle of the speaker. That's 4 inches. The rest of the housing is a lot more than that. And they were the size I'd expected them to be when I bought them initially. So now I go, oh great, now I've got another set of speakers on the way I don't really need. But then I tested them with the turntable, and they plugged into the turntable, or rather the turntable plugged into them, and even at full volume it did not exceed the volume I'm talking at right now. It was like a whisper. So clearly the speakers I bought were not powerful enough, and I'm currently hoping the ones that haven't arrived yet will be. Now, so after realizing that the speakers were not adequately powerful enough to amplify the signal, I instead plugged them into my audio interface, and through there they sounded incredible. They sounded great. So I decided to try to use them with Ableton, and lo and behold, they sounded even better. So now I really, really don't want to return them, because they've eliminated a substantial amount of delay in my setup, allowing me to record better and iterate better and hear my songs as I work on them better. So I don't think I'm going to return them, sort of begrudgingly for my wallet, but such is, I suppose. I'll have to let you know if the other set of speakers works. If they don't, then I think I might opt for just hooking up the turntable to a preamp and then wiring that to these speakers, rather than retaining the really expensive ones that are on the way. But that'll have to be decided when they arrive. I think much like watching anime, listening to my records is something that I've lost, that I haven't really realized the impact of losing. Because when I had my record player, I could just throw on a record and then dedicate myself to a task for 6 hours. Like, I'd have to keep swapping records, but like, I could get my room cleaned and I wouldn't stop until the record was over. Or I'd put one on in the background while I like animate or something, but I haven't been able to do that. I think the last time I used it, before I noticed it was definitely playing too fast, was in 2023, like after I'd gotten back from Japan. It's definitely something I've been missing quite a bit. On the subject of anime, My Hero Academia is still going a bit crazy. I think I'm caught up with that right now. And I'm not really sure what's in the next episode, but at the very least, every episode has had me tearing up a bit. There's also another anime, which I think I'm going to have to look it up right now to sort of verify that it's in fact the right one. Gnosia, like Gnosia. Apparently it's based off of a game that's like a Danganronpa type thing. Well, Danganronpa type, where it's like figure out who the murderer is, but the game plays like a series of I think here we called the game Town of Salem. It's like you have to figure out Town of Salem or Mafia. It's like a children's game where you have to like one person is selected to be the killer, and then one person is selected to be the like guardian angel, and then another person selected to be the detective, and each of them has like a thing they can secretly do, like in between everybody else's turn, with the killer choosing someone to kill while everybody else's eyes are closed, and then the angel choosing somebody to save while everybody else's eyes are closed. And then I think I don't know if the detective is a standard like role, but the detective gets to choose who, or to check somebody to see if they are the killer. Yeah. Most of the ones I've played don't really have the detective role, but they do have, the guardian angel. So Gnosia is like a game based around that, with like more or less people or more or less roles. And the anime itself is very, very like gripping. Very interesting. I'm excited for the next episode. The characters are also very interesting. I'm not kidding, actually I'm not going to spoil that if you decide to watch it, but there's like a character in I think episode 6 that's just like funny to think, well, funny to look at, and just funny to think about, just sort of conceptually within the like confines of the game. Yeah. Anyway, those speakers don't arrive until Tuesday, unfortunately. So I'm still waiting on those. But I've already put the new speakers to good use in recording some things. Oh, right. I made a Twitter account for like my music stuff. I forget if I linked it in the YouTube channel information anywhere, but it's linked on the SoundCloud page. So if you want to follow that for some reason, you can go over there. I can guarantee you, like, most of the things I'll put on there won't be very good. Like right now, I think I've uploaded 4 different dropped, like, projects. But yeah, that exists. Anyway, on Monday I got all dressed up, and well, not all dressed up. I woke up and then went to work, and when I got like 5 feet through the door, I checked my phone and I realised I wasn't scheduled. So I just 180s right back home. And then I was roped into doing Christmas decorating and putting up the tree and putting up lights and such. I've sort of misfortunately gotten back into Girls Frontline 2, or Dolls Frontline 2, I think it's called in Asia. And maybe in Europe, I'm not sure, but I hadn't touched the game in like 6 months, so I missed a number of events and a number of other things, but they recently added some things to it, and actually I think the issue I had was there was no story content for me to go through. I hadn't caught up with the story. And I'm not really a huge fan of doing dailies in gacha games, so there wasn't much reason for me to continue playing. But sort of under my nose, while I had not been playing, they added a character who I'd sort of been waiting on being added. Now, sorry for all the chair noises. There are a number of characters, like character designs from Girls Frontline, that I like quite a bit. Like, of course, Clue Guy, who's like has a very cool design, and I like Vector a lot, especially in Girls Frontline 2. She has a very cool jacket, and honestly, out of all the characters, looks the most like combat ready. But oh, actually, let me check. I also really like P90. I think her design is very, very cute, and I really hope she gets added to the to Girls Frontline too. I think her design's very similar to Vector. Actually, well, Vector in the original one, like Girls Frontline 1, I guess she got like a major redesign because she looks quite different, but Girls Frontline 2 Vector looks like P90 in Girls Frontline 1. It's fine. I hope she gets added, but the character that did get added under my nose before I went on that tangent was M1 Garand, or Springfield. Or not Garand, frick. No, Garand is blonde. Who am I thinking of? No, she's the M1 Garand. Hold on. Now I need to look at the wiki. Springfield. Have I got my... Somebody's going to get mad at me for this. Have I gotten 1903 United States Rifle? M1 1903. Okay, it's the M1 1903. There we go. Ay. It's like, I think, a World War One rifle. In fact, it might even be the one. I don't know if anybody's seen Full Metal Jacket, but it might be like the like training rifle they were given, where it's like, this is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine. From that. Either way, when I was in middle school, like 2015 or 2016, I came across a picture of the character. I forget what the context of the picture was. I think she was in like a cafe outfit or something, which is like in line with the character, I suppose. Actually, I think... No, her regular outfit is just like a white dress with a colonial jacket on top. Dang. Oh no, there is like a cafe outfit as well. Either way, I came across a picture of the character, and I remember finding it like on my iPod, and I showed it to my friend, and I'm like, dude, look, isn't this the most beautiful anime girl you've ever seen? She's based off of the M1. Isn't that awesome? And he goes, yeah, sure, dude, we have to go to shop class. But that was nearly 10 years ago, and well, just my luck, I logged into Girls Frontline 2, and one of the banners that they had up was to pull for, like, you could select guarantee for any, like, for the last five-star banners. And you could pull on the one of your choice. Guarantee at 80 pulls, and Springfield was on there, so I got to pull on her. It was great, and I got her. And then same with Klukai, who I think was the banner before hers. Yeah, so I got both of them. However, it being a gotcha game where I've missed 6 months of content meant there was so much catching up to do. There was one day where I played the game for 10 hours. It might have been 11 hours. I don't know. I played the game for way too long, and it really took my sleep from me because there was just more and more that I had to do. And when 3 a.m. rolled around, my dailies got reset, which meant there was more for me to do. It's ridiculous. I think I'd spoken on it the last time I played it. I'd finished up the event. There was like a story event with Klukai. The last few chapters of the main story have roped back into that. It's like we saw the future and then went back, and yeah, things are being told out of order, but it's in a way that feels alright. And now I'm really excited to see where the story goes, because interesting things have been happening. Yeah. So there's some stuff I have to do in the game. There's 2 story events going on that I have to do. One of them ends in 13 days, and the other doesn't end for a few months. But if I don't get on that soon, I'm not going to get on it at all. So, yeah. It's rough. Gacha games are a real double-edged sword. For constant stuff to do and, interesting designs and stuff, to have that blade facing outward, you have to have the blade of FOMO, fear of missing out, and deadlines sort of stabbing you with the blade in the other direction. They're so much more engaging because of the limited time events and the banners going up and going down. But it sucks when you don't have time to engage with it. I think I've seen people say online that gacha games are for people who don't have jobs, because it does feel like a second job sometimes. I'm honestly too afraid to try and touch Genshin Impact. I know Zenless, the next banner, is Ellen again, and I think it would be fun to get the, I don't know if they're called constellations in Zenless, but that's what I've always referred to them as. It would be fun to get constellations for her, so I might try pulling for that. if I have any of the like premium currency saved up. Anyway, yeah, I've been playing a lot of Girls Frontline 2. That was like the last few days, really. That's all I've done. I mean, I made two songs, technically speaking, but one of them was just like effect on the mic, effect on the guitar, go. I hit record and then exported in short order. But the other one was produced from start to finish. It was a bit of an odd one because I was just messing around with like guitar effects and tones, and then I started playing something, and I'm like, this sounds kind of cool. Like the tone of the guitar is a bit wonky, but like it's not a bad bass line, so I just sort of recorded around that. Bass line is in like B-A-S-E, not B-A-S-S. I think I've been a little bit down, I guess. And like I said earlier, I have no idea what the real cause of my what's the word? Real cause of my sadness, I guess, or like the deterioration of my physical and mental state. I said I didn't know what it was at the start of this video, but I've just realized now. I think it started because I didn't get that job I had interviewed for in October. So I think it was in October. It must have been. It had to have been. It might have been in November. I'm not sure. Either way, I didn't get that job I had interviewed for. And while I've gotten calls for another job or two, I haven't gotten any more interviews for any. And every job, like I've received, I think in the last 10 days, I've received like 4 or 5 rejection emails from the jobs I've applied for, which is more than most companies would give. Most would just like view the application, move on, and not say anything. So I'm glad they're at least telling me to not hold out hope, but it still stings a bit when I'm trying my damnedest to get away from this job that I hate, that doesn't pay very well. Yeah, it's been rough. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Message. Yeah. Looks like I was right on the money with the amount of rejections I've gotten. No wondering what I'm going to do with myself for the rest of the day. My original plan was to go about and do some Christmas shopping, but presently you can't differentiate the road from the lawns, or let alone the sidewalk right now. There is so much snow. It is really coming down. It's very pretty. but unfortunately it's terrible for driving in. So I guess I'm stuck at home for now. Maybe I'll work on that song I keep meaning to finish. Or maybe I'll just play something. I know one of my friends wants to play Night Rain later, but that's not till later, so. Anyway, I think that's where I'm going to stop recording now. Thank you for joining me this morning. If you did listen all the way through, thank you, I guess. These days it gets tougher and tougher to actually watch or listen to something all the way through. Sometimes it's like you don't want to finish it because you don't want it to be over, and then other times it's just like you feel like you know what's going to happen, so you're not really that interested and you don't need to spend the time on it. I know I have YouTube videos that I've only half watched that are still open tabs on my browser. So if you did listen all the way through, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to get on I'm going to get on with my day. I hope you get on with yours too, without any hitches. Yeah. Bye-bye. Have a good day.